All right, everybody, we're back with a brand new Cabral Concept. Today's episode 3154. We're going to be going over all the different reasons for skin itchiness. Now, this may seem like a random topic, but it's not. So many millions of children and adults are affected by itchy skin, whether it's often, meaning a couple times or so per week or month, or chronic, that it's every single day. Believe it or not, there's about a top 10. I'm going to go through the top 10 reasons why this skin itchiness exists, so that if you or a loved one, or if you're an integrative health practitioner, someone in your practice is suffering from this, you can begin to understand the underlying root cause. Remember, we are not here just to go to our local pharmacy and get a cream to take away the itchiness. Sure, temporarily that gets rid of the itchiness, or we take a Benadryl or whatever the over-the-counter treatment is, but it's not getting to the underlying root cause. In natural health, and true healing is not about masking the symptoms. Temporarily, you may want to relieve them. I get it and I understand. But we need to figure out what is causing the itchiness, because maybe it starts with the skin, but it can lead to a whole host of other issues that begin to, I would say, degrade you as a human being, meaning like it begins to just increase inflammation, which eventually leads to more brain fog and foggy thinking or clarity of thought. It weakens your energy, the overall life force of your body. Then your lower energy, lower mood, lower libido, poor recovery from exercise. You don't want to exercise as much. It is a gradual filling up of that rain barrel, overflowing, and then you are no longer the same person. So yes, I'm talking about skin itchiness, but really what I'm talking about is how do we find the underlying root cause of anything that ails you, and understanding that every underlying root cause, I'm going to go through 10 of them here today. Every dis-ease of the body has about 10 to 12 main underlying root causes. You'll see an example of that here today. So let's dive right into it. First, and these aren't in any particular order, meaning of importance, one reason for itchiness, and this actually came up because someone wrote into the weekend Cabral Concept, as to where we answer our community's questions every weekend. Why do I get itchy skin as I begin to fall asleep? Well, understand that any type of itchiness or allergy can be a histamine-based response. And so what that means is that histamines, like anything, begin to have their own circadian rhythm. And histamine release can be greater in the evening, especially as cortisol levels begin to decline. And I'll talk about that a little later. Cortisol is an amazing way, and same with epinephrine, it works as an anti-inflammatory, essentially. It also helps, though, with allergies. And you see that one of the main ingredients of allergy-based medication is ephedrine or ephedra, just different variations of it. And that essentially is it's a sympathetic nervous system stimulator. Well, as we're going to bed, we turn off the sympathetic nervous system, hopefully, begin to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system. Again, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. And the histamine levels can begin to rise. So basically, mast cells inside of your body, almost looking like a white blood cell, and they degranulate. They allow these histamines to come out. When the histamines increase, what do we get? Well, we can get itchy eyes, a little bit of swelling in the body, a little water retention. I'll talk about that in a moment. And it could be itchy skin as well. So that's the first one, histamine-based release. Now, the second one goes along with overall itchy skin, and I wanted to lump it in because oftentimes people will get restless leg syndrome, and their legs will get itchy as well. I want to share with you, and I've already shared this on a separate podcast, so I'm not going to go too deep right now. Almost every single person in our practice has been able to eliminate restless leg syndrome, or RLS, within a week to 3 weeks by simply rebalancing their electrolytes in their body. That does not mean taking an electrolyte packet. That's the opposite of that. It typically means they need to increase their magnesium levels through supplementation and their potassium levels through food. I'm not a big advocate of adding a lot of potassium through supplementation. I prefer that through food, However, it's not like you shouldn't get magnesium through food. You should, but it works far more effectively through supplementation. Now, in my practice, I do whatever works best from a natural health and safe level. So I recommend something like calming magnesium 30 minutes before bed, 1 scoop. And maybe if you need it, 2 capsules of full spectrum magnesium at dinner. One other thing we will often do is use Adrenal Soothe at dinner, 2 capsules to lower those cortisol levels. Our job is to do 1 variable, maybe 2 at a time, to see what works. What I just shared with you is often enough. Now, if you need more potassium, which is sometimes the case to relax the central nervous system, then we'll start to add high potassium foods. And of course, you can look those up online, or I have a whole podcast on high potassium foods into your diet. All right. So that goes along with it. And if it's mainly itchy legs and the restless leg syndrome, you'll be able to resolve that. There's no doubt about that. And I have a whole podcast just on all the different resolutions of that. All right. Because again, everything has about, not even sometimes 10, 6 to 12 total underlying root causes. Restless leg syndrome, no different. 6 to 12 main causes. That's it. All right. The third one is this. Itchy skin can be from dry skin or eczema. Now, I will tell you that eczema or eczema is almost always a food sensitivity. Not always, but almost always. Not to be confused with psoriasis, which is almost always a part stress, autoimmune, part gut permeability issue. And they really go together. Okay. So psoriasis is different than eczema. All right. Different underlying root cause. Eczema, itchy, it's not that psoriasis can't be, but they're different. And dry skin, we can just kind of call it that. So, well, why do we say this? The dry skin, keep in mind, could be from dehydration. So that's actually our fourth one. So I'm just going to add it in. Literally, sometimes people's skin is itchy because they drink coffee all day and energy drinks, and they never really drink any water. Or they don't have smoothies, or they don't have things that, why do I say smoothie? Well, if it has fruit in it, fruit's 90% water for the most part. I mean, again, some are a little higher, some a little lower, but they're all pretty much 80+% water. You dehydrate any fruit, you can see it shrivels down to almost nothing. It's almost all water. So you're getting natural water, like fruit really does count as hydration. So here's the thing. It's not that you can't drink some coffee or drink some tea that has caffeine. It's not that you can't, but you need fresh water in your body. And typically most people need about half their body weight in ounces per day. You weigh 160 pounds, you need about 80 ounces, about 10 glasses of water. Smoothies count, decaf things count, herbal tea counts, but you also just want fresh water in your diet, right? So we like to use hydrogen water from a hydrogen ionizer, but you can use whatever it is that you like. Just hydrate your body. So that's a big one. Okay. Now, but it can also be, why else might you have dry skin? And we'll go over this a little bit later as we talk about hormones. Well, imbalances with estrogen, progesterone, low thyroid, low omega-3s, like all of those things matter as well. So we're going to find out the correction on that. All right. After dehydration, which we just spoke about, nerve sensitivity. This is a way overlooked one, meaning that if you have something inflamed about the nervous system, it can lead to skin itchiness. This is an actual, all of these are obviously science-based, but this happens time and time again. Is it one of the most common? No, but it absolutely does happen, without a doubt, and it can essentially affect the entire body. Sometimes it's just an impingement in one area, okay, so we need to look at that, but oftentimes this is the big underlying issue. And so what we look at is calming the sympathetic nervous system, going on an anti-inflammatory diet, making sure that there's enough magnesium, balanced levels of vitamin D3, etc. And that can be tremendously helpful. Number 6, this is one of the most common, without a doubt. So you always have to look here first. Are you being exposed to environmental irritants? A new fabric softener, a new laundry detergent, a new shampoo, a new soap, a new whatever. Anything that's actually touching your skin that can be a reason for skin itchiness. And you might say, well, that seems obvious. It's not. Like, it's literally not for most people. Like, oh, I just bought a new soap and it said that it was all natural. It said it was organic. It said this, this, and this. It doesn't mean that you're not reacting to it, right? Like, even though it's organic doesn't mean that it's like, oh, it's fine for everybody. It's just, you could be sensitive to it. So always just keep that in mind. I always go back to like the basis. Okay, well, like, what did I change? And if I changed anything, I simply look at that and say, oh, I changed 4 things. Well, I got to remove all 4 things. And then you add them one in at a time for about a week or so. Am I better, worse, or the same? Right? And you just kind of work through that. We talk about that all the time, especially with a rotation diet. So I want to look at that. So that's basically called contact dermatitis. You've come in contact with something and you get little red bumps, or you get a little bit of itchiness or a little rash. I mean, that happens all the time. It could even be going out on a hike and you rubbed up against some plants or some whatever. Again, that can be a reason for itchiness. Another one, environment-wise, slight sunburn. Some people get a slight sunburn and or even a little bit of too much, pinkness on the skin can make them itchy. All right, so that's not uncommon in any way, shape, or form. So keep that in mind. If it happens specifically in your bed, wash your sheets, hot water, get rid of those dust mites. Okay, the 7th one is a psychosomatic response. Now, back in the day, when I was 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old, before I started to move towards natural health doctors, I was always told that all my health ailments were in my head, because conventional medicine hadn't yet run the actual labs to find out what was technically wrong with me. And again, I don't necessarily blame them because they're just part of the establishment, but they didn't expect a 17-year-old kid to have Addisons disease, which is very rare, right? So I get it. I understand. There's no grudges held. However, I'll spend the rest of my life teaching people that this is the big difference between conventional medicine and natural health. Conventional medicine, best of the world in life-saving, acute-based circumstances. I get it, and I'm happy that we have that, and we need doctors that do that. But if you have a chronic-based health issue, there's going to be no relief, only symptomatic. You will never get better unless you just stay on the drugs, which gives you a false sense that you're better. You're not. You're just masking the symptoms. Okay, so psychosomatic response is you start to get a little stressed, you start to feel a little itchiness, you focus on the itchiness, and then it just compounds. So we have to be aware that our mind is very powerful, far more powerful than our body. The mind is so much more powerful, exponentially greater in terms of strength. We need to be careful that we are not inducing our own histamine and own itchiness-based response. So just be aware of that. If the itchiness starts to come on, take a deep breath in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth. We relax our central nervous system using a resonance-based breathing or calming-based breath. All right. There's more to it than that, but I just want to make sure that you're on the lookout. Today, I'm just giving you the underlying root causes. Okay. And then we can work on fixing all of those. All right. The 8th one is circulatory changes. This is important. Sometimes you'll see varicose veins. Sometimes you'll see puffiness in the ankles. You'll start to see the swelling. There's just poor circulation. You need to get that body moving. You need to find out, are there cardiovascular issues? Is there high blood pressure? Or is there low thyroid? What else? Are there kidney issues? Like look at, well, why is the blood pooling more in my legs? Or why am I having these circulation-based issues? Important to look at that. Are you getting your 10,000 steps per day? And so just, again, self-massage, dry brushing, sauna, all those great things. Take a look at that. The 9th one is hormonal-based fluctuations. Not as much with testosterone, but absolutely with estrogen, progesterone, thyroid, and cortisol. If there are imbalances with any one of those 4, and you could add insulin to that as well, 5, you may get a cortisol and inverse histamine-based response. So always keep in mind that we need to keep our delicate hormones, which are really estrogen, progesterone, and DHEA, in balance and in check. Really important. And again, you can run labs. If you want to test your omega-3 levels, you can run the omega-3 inflammation test. If you want to run your hormones with thyroid and cortisol, that's the stress, mood, and metabolism test. Those are all at stephencabral.com/shop. That'll take you right over to EqualLife. All of those come not only with a coaching call, but also they come with a plan, which is more important than your lab results. And if you don't want to run them with EqualLife, that's okay. You can find a level 2 practitioner at integrativehealthpractitioner.org all around the world, and you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, the 10th one is this. I actually added in an 11th. I just saw it on my notes right here for you. So the 10th one is medication side effects. So just keep in mind that some medications that affect your nervous system, such as sleep medications or antihistamines or sedatives or other medications, can sometimes have a side effect, especially as they begin to wear off. So just keep in mind that if your itchiness coincided with a few weeks to a few months after starting a new medication, it could be from that, compounding effects. The last one I added is basically a bonus, is food sensitivities. It's basically not quite an environmental sensitivity, but it's food that we're eating. Very, very common. Citrus foods, it's an IgE reaction usually. So citrus, eggs, fish, shellfish, nuts, not as many seeds, but more nuts towards that. Cow's milk, all of these can lead to eczema. I wanted to share with you the top 3 foods we see leading to eczema are anything dairy-based, eggs, and gluten. And you say, no, I don't necessarily believe that. No problem. Totally okay. It is free, though, to eliminate all dairy, all eggs, and all gluten for a period of 21 to 28 days, 3 to 4 weeks. Just eliminate them. You can just kind of look at it for yourself. If your eczema starts to heal, whether it's a child or an adult, it was one of those 3. Now, it can be other foods. We test for 190 different foods from an IgG reaction. And though that's just a lab test at StephenCabral.com/shop. We ship it essentially all over the world. So you always have options, but food sensitivities absolutely lead to skin itchiness, and that's an important one to look at as well. So hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to leave this list for you at StephenCabral.com/3154. And if this show was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.